So this is a quick demo of the Picklist extensions pricing enrichment, which we have done to support dynamic pricing in Picklist extension fields, and the price doesn't have to be defined statically. I'll show the end user side demo first, and then we will walk through the administration side also for this. So I'm going to launch the logic configurator for this energy pricing calculator product. As you can see, I have the location information. This automatically came from the quote early on. So that was populated using the quote value. I'm not going to use the electricity bill for this demo, and we'll focus on the alternative energy options. So by default, alternate energy was true. And you can see I had some alternate energy sources shown in a picklist extension with some description region, and there's a price value getting populated here. The interesting thing about this price is not really part of the extension definition, but is calculated on the fly. To see that effect, I kept the zip code editable. In this particular demo, typically it will be only set by the quote, and you will not be changing it or seeing that in configuration. So if I was to delete it, you can see that the pricing disappeared. And if I was to select a different zip code, a different price value got populated automatically also. And on the administration side, you will see how that calculation was done for which options got which price. Further, I can also select a particular option. So if I select solar, you can see that the components for solar energy and accessories are shown, and they also get a different price here, which is calculated based on the base price value and some factor which I'm looking up in the administration side from a table. Same logic is applied for wind and nuclear as well. You can see that the price changes for each one of them, and that is a calculated price. Plus, all the functionality of picklist extension still applies. So you can see that the filtering was automatically happening here. If I was to select a product, the automatic product rule was also fired, and the price which we calculated got added as the list price for that BOM item. So your entire setup with picklist extension can get dynamic pricing. Now that we have seen the end user side, let's take a look on the administration side. So I'm going to go to my product to view of logic products. I'm going to go to energy pricing calculator. And at this point, I'm in the configurable product energy pricing calculator, which is linked to this blueprint. So I'll go to the blueprint and we look at some of the setup here. So the initial setup which I did to get this logic going was I set up my three picklist extension fields. So I had my alternate energy sources, which had the solar, wind, and nuclear defined. There was the picklist extension defined for it, which gave me the description and the region information and the product ID and product name. The key thing you see here, which is not defined as a column, is the price, because pricing I can add on the fly in the enrichment area. If you wanted, you could still have some pricing defined for the picklist extension, which will not be overridden if you don't need to using this enrichment. The way you control which picklist extensions are going to be enabled or are going to trigger enrichment is this flag we have added in the picklist extension tab to say enable for enrichment. If it is false, then the enrichment area is not triggered for this particular picklist extension. So you can manage which picklist extension really have to drive this logic of dynamic pricing. And the product ID and the product name and the other product field mapping you can do, which will automatically trigger the product rules. The other two uh, picklist extensions I defined are pretty similar. The only difference was there was a filter on alternate energy sources, again, the standard capability of picklist extensions. So this was my base setup of the fields. As you will see, there were no other rules defined here which were related to those products or that filtering or the pricing, because that is all being done through the picklist extension capability. The other thing which I did in the setup was also define a couple of tables. So there is alternate energy pricing table, which gives me the price for different zip codes. What is the base price value, as you can see. So this is how that change was happening. When I changed the zip code to 91,000, the pricing changed. And when it was 17579, then the pricing was different. Similarly, I have another table which is called alternate energy multiplier. And what this is saying is for different types of children, whether they are component or accessory, based on the zip code, you have different pricing factors being applied. So these were the factors which were being used to get the base price value and use that base price value to calculate the accessory price. Just to refresh, if you remember, when the in this case wind price for my code of 91,000 was 200, and the price for wind turbine came out to be $50, which is a component. To see how that played out, if you see the 200 price for the 91,000, it had a factor of 0.25, which is equivalent to $50. So that's sort of the idea which we achieved through this dynamic pricing. Now let's go to the actual place where we wrote the logic for doing this pricing calculation. So in the enrichment areas in the blueprint, we have added this new area called Picklist extension pricing. If I was to open this up in a bigger view, you will see that this picklist extension pricing enrichment area gets this new object called picklist request. In the debugger, we actually show you the format also of this. What this does is this gives you all the picklist extensions which are part of this request right now, and what field they belong to, what field they are, which array index it may be or set index it may be on, and some other unique identifiers of the extension which you can use to set the pricing for a particular option. Initial code in this script is just trying to do some pre-fetching of the data so that I can make a consolidated query. So based on which picklist extensions were part of the request, I populated an array out of them and then use that array to look up the pricing information for the base price. So you can see for the given zip code and energy values, which are part of the request, you use that. If that pick list extension was not in the request, but I still needed the base price, I populated my value options and still made the query. And that's how I populated a map, which told me for a given particular alternative energy, what is the base price value. Then the multiplied map is basically looking up this information for component and accessories for the zip code and whatever alt energy source you had selected. So again, looking back at the script, when I was selecting an alternate energy source of solar, you can see that different options were getting selected and different options were becoming filtered, which is why that particular solar panel and solar case pricing was getting calculated there. When I look at all the source prices, after that, I have all the data for the pricing for different elements and the base data from the tables. I can now loop over all my picklist requests, check which one am I on, and if I wanted to update the price for it, I'm just updating the price for that particular picklist extension based on which option this value was for. So the source map was the one which carried the value of the pricing for base sources, and then for component and accessories, it was taking the price on the multiplied map, the factor, taking the source price and multiplying it with that component price. And based on that, I could see all the information being populated here. If you wanted, you could also see this script running in the debugger, again, using the standard format of whatever inputs you want to use. You also give a picklist extension format of this kind for whichever ones you want to test. For convenience of this demo, I have a simple demo script debugger fields ready. So I can use that to show how this works. I can populate the field values. I can also populate the picklist extension request. So this is populating, simulating the entire request of how the data comes in. Run it. You will see I had my different console logs which got populated, and this also shows you the information for the field variable names. So this is sort of a rough overview of what Picklist extension pricing enrichment area can do. Fairly powerful to get dynamic pricing in your configuration. Thank you.